In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful. Hello, everybody. Hope you are doing great. You're watching FOADEBATE. It's an honor to engage in this discussion with Larry Johnson, the renowned American analyst and political commentator. In this episode, I'd love to explore the geopolitical and economic cost of America and Israel's efforts to sustain global dominance. So I will ask my dear guest to present his valuable words on this matter. Welcome, Larry, and good to be with you.
Thank you, Fadi.
You're welcome. The first question that actually comes to my mind is, what will be the cost of America and Israel's struggle to maintain global sovereignty? And basically, do you believe that they are endeavoring to sustain global dominance?
No, the United States is sowing the seeds of its own destruction through these policies. I don't know how familiar you are with how Hollywood works in terms of creating new movies. But if you ever go in to make a pitch about, hey, I've got this great story, it could be made into a movie, they're always going to ask you, well, who's the villain? So in this case, Iran is the villain. As long as the United States and Israel can use Iran as an excuse to justify their policies, they will continue to do so. It doesn't matter that if you step back objectively and just deal with the reality over the last, oh my goodness, now 45, 46 years.
Yeah.
So even after the Iranian students took over the American embassy in Tehran, the United States continued along with Israel. In fact, it was Israel that first approached the Reagan administration, I believe, in like February 1981, right after Ronald Reagan had taken office, requesting permission to buy tires for F-4 Phantom jets in order to put them on the Iranian jets that were sitting unable to take off because the tires were no longer any good. And during that first, despite the fact that there had been this attack on the U.S. embassy, and I understand, I fully understand why the students did it, but that still was, if you would, should have been a sticking point with the United States. That the United States and Israel continued to collaborate for the next 7 years, selling weapons to Iran. That it was used to try to fend off the attacks by Iraq. Now, again, the United States is playing an enormous double game back then, because we were also supplying the chemical weapons that Iraq was using on Iran. So the United States was playing, a very duplicitous double game. The fact that with the I guess installation of the Ayatollah Khomeini as the supreme leader in Iran, he was not just a symbol in Iran, but he was also a symbol throughout the Shia world. And the Shia population within Lebanon, southern Lebanon in particular, were very receptive and responsive to that. And that's where also Iran started to become on the target list. I think Iran has been unfairly blamed for the attacks on the Marines in Beirut, Lebanon. Again, that's always described in the United States as a terrorist attack. Those guys are wearing uniforms, carrying guns. You can make a case that's a legitimate military target. But again, Iran has been identified, and I made this mistake myself back in those days, as a major sponsor of terrorism, when in fact, if you actually do the research and go look at, show me the number of attacks, show me the particular groups, etc., Iran is not the major sponsor of terrorism. That honor belongs to the United States and Israel as the two major sponsors of terrorism, with terrorism defined as attacks on civilians, the use of violence on civilians for political purposes. The United States is the leading terrorist in the world, terrorist sponsoring country.
Exactly. And how has the failure of the project like the, for example, New Middle East and the rise of population resistance in the region affected the legitimacy of the United States and Israel, as you mentioned something about this matter?
Well, yeah, I mean, what's unfortunate is that, let me start with the Muslim world in general, and then we expand from out there. The Muslim and Arab populations in the region are basically staying silent, doing nothing to stop the genocide that's underway in Israel. The only country that's actually acting and trying to be proactive has been Yemen, with the Houthis. I mean, they're, this is almost like watching a group where the smallest, the youngest in the group is the one that's leading the fighting, doing the pushing back, while the big, the supposedly bigger, stronger brothers do nothing. But it's not just the fault of the Arab Muslim nations. I also fault the BRICS countries, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. South Africa, not so much, but particularly Russia, India, and China are in a position to embargo Israel. And they haven't done it. I'm leaving the United States and Europe off the list because the U.S. and Europe, they're completely bought and paid for by the Israeli government, the Israeli supporter, the Zionist supporters. So, but other countries that are not in that, under that financial leverage, I think they could do a lot more to stop it. Mm-hmm. So, this is, but one of the results of this U.S. facilitation of the genocide, not only in Gaza, but the overthrow of the government of Bashar al-Assad, the threat to cause a civil war, a renewed civil war in Lebanon. The United States is losing influence and prestige throughout the region. And you got to give the Houthis credit. They defeated the U.S. Navy. They forced Donald Trump's Naval Carrier Task Force out of the Red Sea because they were unable to stay in for fear of losing an aircraft carrier to a Yemeni missile. So, the rest, I think that sends the rest of the country's got to say, hey, wait a second. Maybe the United States is not quite so invincible as we've led ourselves to believe.
Right. And let's jump to Gaza. How has American support for Israel in the Gaza war weakened its position in international organizations?
Well, certainly it's damaged the U.S. reputation. But
yeah. I said that how has American support for Israel in Gaza war weakened and reduced its position in international organizations?
Well, I'm not sure it's necessarily weakened it.
Oh, it doesn't.
No. Well, look, in the UN Security Council, the United States still has the veto, so it doesn't matter where everybody hates them; they still have the veto. But when it comes to Gaza right now, still the United States can count on France and the United Kingdom as backup to resist actual resolutions that might condemn Israel. I mean, again, why the United Nations has not tossed Israel out of the United Nations is beyond me. That should have been like the number one order of business based upon their clear record of genocide. The United States actually has great disdain for these other international organizations, whether we're talking about UNRWA, the United Nations Refugee Assistance Program, or the International Criminal Court, or so under Donald Trump, there's actually the U.S.'s withdrawal from those organizations, claiming they're irrelevant, and in many cases they are. What have they done to stop conflict? And look right now at the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency, trying to get back into Iran. If Ali Larijani has any influence, you ought to tell him, get lost, get out. It's not in Iran's interest to allow that organization in. Iran's tried to play the game of being, okay, yeah, we want to be part of this international rules-based order. We want to get along. We want to fulfill the agreement. And what did it get you? The complete betrayal. IAEA using its access to identify your nuclear scientists, to identify where they live, so that Zionist operators could kill them and their families. Iran, Iran has made the mistake of trying to think that you can get dressed up and go to the dinner party with the Western countries and they'll let you in and they'll accept you as an equal member. No, it's you're sort of like the black man at a group at a KKK meeting, the Ku Klux Klan. You could show up, even if you're wearing the robe, they're going to know you're black, and they're not going to let you be a full-fledged member at all. It's just, they'll patronize you in order to get some leverage over you, because ultimately this is about destroying the Iranian government as it is currently constituted. And so the West is not your friend. And those Iranians that believe that somehow if we, you're a cultured people, you've got centuries of civilization behind you. The West doesn't care. They don't care at all. So it's like, wake up, stop fooling yourselves. Be yourself, just stand up for yourself. And if the West actually comes and wants to be your friend, fine, but do it on your terms, not on theirs.
Sure, you're right. And you mean that we are making mistakes in this path, right?
Yes, I think so. The United States accuses you of being state sponsors of terrorism, except the United States removed Mujahideen al-Khalq as a terrorist group, and now normalized them, so we fund them so that they can carry out terrorist attacks in Iran. I mean, it's madness. It's sure madness. I have not been to Iran. I had an opportunity earlier last October, but my own schedule didn't permit me to make the trip. But Iranians have always been hospitable to Americans, and really want to work with us. But there is an understandable anger and resentment within Iran towards how America has treated and dealt with Iran over the past, going back to the overthrow of Mossadegh in 1953, I believe. The constant U.S. meddling in Iranian political affairs, without really the lack of understanding in the West about that Iran is not this monolith Shia state. You do have Christians. You do have one of the oldest Jewish communities, is my understanding, in the world that lives and is protected in Iran. But the United States can't. What really makes us angry is we can't control you. We've got to have full control and domination over you, and until you submit, you're going to be an enemy. That's how I think Iran is viewed.
It could be the result of Western hegemony, am I right? And what are the possible scenario for the decline of Western hegemony? Is the third war a real threat?
Well, we're already seeing the signs of Western decline. The failure to stop the Houthis, the fact that the United States did not have the military power to stop the Houthis from closing down the Red Sea. The fact that the United States cannot supply sufficient artillery shells to the Ukrainian army. The fiscal situation of the United States is dire. They're at 125%. Debt to GDP ratio is 125% to 100, which is impossible to sustain over a long period of time. I think Iran's debt to GDP ratio is far, far less than that. At least on that measure, Iran stands above the United States. But we don't see the United States getting more countries lining up saying, hey, boy, we want to be your friend. Instead, we're seeing U.S. actions, particularly Trump's tariff attacks, as alienating more countries. India is a case in point. India previously was favorably disposed to be as closely aligned with the United States as any other country. Not now. They've taken personal offense at the U.S. efforts to impose the tariffs, and they're pursuing a closer relationship with China. So,
and what is your prediction?
I think there's going to be a global financial crisis. I think as a consequence of that crisis, there may be a war. If there is that war, the United States will lose that war, and then the United States is going to have to do some very difficult self-reckoning.
What kind of war do you mean?
I think we're looking at the potential for a nuclear war. So I hope it stays in the conventional realm. But the United States right now, it looks like it's threatening Venezuela. Now I don't know if this is just a show of force with no intent to use it. But if the United States does attack Venezuela, then we're going to see great problems for the United States throughout Central and South America. There will be a great turning against the United States. So from an economic standpoint of countries wanting to do business with the United States, I think we'll see that shrink. But hopefully it doesn't come to a nuclear war. But if it stays even in the conventional realm, the United States is going to wind up getting hurt. And that's going to be sort of a shock to a lot of the American people who bought into the propaganda that we're the greatest, we're the best, we're the strongest. None of that's true, but that's what we believe.
Yeah, right. And how do you assess the Iran-Israel conflict?
Well, there's still talk that Israel is going to attack Iran. I got to tell you, there's. I really don't want to see that happen, but if it does happen, the silver lining out of that is I believe Iran has the capability through its missiles, different missile systems, to literally destroy Israel, to destroy Israel's ability to continue to function as a nation. Now, in doing that, it raises a great danger that Israel, in the last act of desperation, like Samson, might pull the temple down on top of himself by using nuclear weapons. But I believe that Iran did not show its full capability during the 12-day war. I think Iran, prior to that, foolishly rejected the offer of Russia to have a full security agreement with Iran. Now, I understand, I guess, sort of the theological reasons for this within Shia Islam, that you didn't want to be put in a position of having to support Russia in the event that Russia carried out an attack that did not conform with the religious principles that undergird the Islamic Republic. So I understand that. But I think that there should have been more consideration that Russia was not going to actually engage in such reckless behavior, that it was actually acting it only when it was pushed to the limit. Now, my understanding is since June 25th, Iran has been much more receptive to the offers of assistance from both Russia and China in the realms of air defense, in realms of hardening nuclear sites, in areas of improving communications and counterintelligence. So I think Iran is now more prepared than ever to respond to another attack from Israel. Again, I hope it doesn't come, but it looks like, given the talk, that's certainly something that's likely in September or October.
And the U.S. will involve itself to this war or not?
Yeah. Yes. No, I'm sure. They will, and therein lies the danger, because what the U.S. can do is actually somewhat limited. And Iran's in a position where I think it can pretty well shut down the Straits of Hormuz, disrupt the world oil market. But I don't think Iran's going to do that lightly. I think it will do so in consultation with Russia and China. particularly with China, because of China's dependence on the oil that comes out of the Persian Gulf. So, I don't see the uh, Iranian leadership as reckless, and they're certainly not acting out of emotion. Um, I think there is a fair criticism that President Pezeshkian may have been too accommodating of the West, but I think the reorganization of, I'm not sure what the official title is, the Defense Council, with Ali Larijani in charge of that, I think reflects a sort of an understanding that you're not going to make the same mistakes in this go around that you did last time. That instead of Pezeshkian being in charge or being able to have an influential voice, he's been sidelined.
Fantastic. Many thanks, Larry. If you would like to add something more, I'm all ears.
No, Fadi. I appreciate the chance to talk about this. It's you guys are in the front row seats of world events today, and I'm hoping, as I have said with respect to like the JCPOA, when Iran signed on to that 10 years ago, Iran was in a much weaker position, if you think about it. China and Russia were at that time willing to side with the West in pressuring Iran with the threat of sanctions to sign on to the agreement, number one. And Iran was busy trying to support the government of Syria in its battle against these Sunni-backed jihadists that were funded by the West. You were also involved with trying to help Yemen withstand a U.S.-backed war with Saudi Arabia. And you were isolated diplomatically. Now I think that has changed, because now you have Russia and China solidly as allies, no longer bamboozled by the West. And so I think it's I think Iran's on a path to getting out of this economic prison that it has been in for the last 10 years. And BRICS provides the way out, where you no longer have to worry about US dollars. You're able to move independently of those. And in doing that, you find freedom.
Right. Thank you very much, Larry, for sharing your invaluable insights. I enjoyed a lot talking to you. I hope to have more conversation with you if you agree in different matters and different political issues. I hope to have you in near future. Thank you so much, and have a great day.
Okay, Fadi. Thank you, my friend.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.